This is the sad tale of the township of Dogville. Dogville was in the Rocky Mountains in the US of A. Up here, where the road came to its definitive end near the entrance to the old abandoned silver mine. The residents of Dogville were good, honest folks, and they liked their township. And while a sentimental soul from the East Coast had once dubbed their main street Elm Street, though no elm had ever cast its shadow in Dogville, they saw no reason to change anything. Most of the buildings were pretty wretched, more like shacks, frankly. The house in which Tom lived was the best, though, and in good times might almost have passed for presentable. That afternoon, the radio was playing softly, for in his dotage, Thomas Edison Sr. had developed a weakness for music of the lighter kind.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States.
Tom, do me a favor, will you? The radio?
Just because the music's over and you might risk hearing something useful, I thought that's why we had the radio.
Well, I need to rest, as you know. Mock me if you like.
Tom's father had been a doctor and now received a modest pension. So it was no great disaster for Tom to drift about not doing anything in particular. Tom was a writer, at any rate by his own lights. Oh, his output as committed to paper was so far limited to the words great and small, followed by a question mark, but nevertheless meticulously archived in one of his many bureau drawers.
Hi, Dad.
Evening, Master Tom.
Evening, Master Olivia. You don't forget about the meeting tomorrow.
No.
In order to postpone the time at which he would have to put pen to paper in earnest, Tom had now come up with a series of meetings on moral rearmament with which he felt obliged to benefit the town.
Hi, kids. Hi, Tom. Evening, Chuck. Will we see you at the meeting tomorrow?
Well, I could do without your lectures. You know Vera. Wouldn't give me a moment's peace till I said yes. Who gave Moses that bone? Still got meat on it.
Jason did.
Jason gave that mite a bone with meat on it? Next time you waste good food, I'll take your knife away. I'd have known it was you was giving me to eat. Moses is meant to be hungry, to keep watch.
Keep watching Dogville. What's there to steal?
These are wicked times, Tom Edison. Soon there'll be folks by with even less than us.
It was 7 o'clock precisely as Martha chimed the hour, and Tom was due to play checkers with his childhood friend Bill Henson. Bill was dumb and knew it. Far too dumb to qualify as an engineer, he was certainly sure of that. After listening for a while to the pile driver down the valley that Ben insisted was working on the foundation of a new penitentiary, Tom headed for the Henson home in order to inflict upon Bill yet another humiliating defeat at checkers. Some folks might say the opportunity to meet Bill's older sister Liz was more of a draw than the checkerboard, and they might be right.
Hey, Liz.
Hey, Tom. Must you come by every single day? It'd be a lot more fun if somebody interesting appeared for a change.
Is Bill in?
Well, isn't he always? He studies and I help out with the glasses. Even though everybody knows that I'm the clever one.
Hey, Mrs. Hanson.
Evening, Tom.
Checkers time, Bill, old buddy.
As usual, Bill tried to fake his way around actually playing. He had not yet fully comprehended this meeting business, he claimed.
Maybe we should just let them be.
I don't think so.
What if they're just fine as they are?
You think they're fine? I don't think so. I think there's a lot this country's forgotten. I just try to refresh folks' memories by way of illustration.
So the illustration for tomorrow.
I don't know. See, if the people of Dogville have a problem with acceptance, what I really need is something for them to accept. Something tangible, like a gift.
Why in the heck would someone up and give us a gift?
I don't know. I'm gonna have to do some thinking.
Despite considerable effort on his part to prolong things, Tom had achieved the triumph at the checkerboard pretty quickly. It had started to rain, and the wind had become a regular gale when Tom strolled home through Elm Street. If Tom were to prove that the citizens of Dogville had a problem receiving in his lecture the next day, he sorely lacked an illustration, a gift. Bill might have been right. It hadn't exactly rained gifts on this particular township. There was no doubt in his mind. They were gunshots. The shots had come from down in the valley, or perhaps from Canyon Road, someplace in the direction of Georgetown. He listened for more shots for ages, but they were not repeated. A tad disappointed, Tom sat down on the old lady's bench to think, to hang on to the feeling of danger for a moment. But it wasn't long before his thoughts were back on his favorite subjects again. And in the midst of the storm, they metamorphosed into articles and novels and great gatherings that had listened in silence to Tom after the publication of yet another volume that scourged and purged the human soul. And he saw men, and among them even other writers, throw their arms round one another as through his words life had opened up for them anew. It hadn't been easy, but by his diligence and application to narrative and drama, his message had gotten through. And asked about his technique, he would have to say but one word: illustration. Tom could have spent another half hour or more on the bench, but another unusual noise roused him. It was Moses barking. Oh, that wasn't unusual in itself, but it was the way he barked that was new. His barking was not loud, but more of a snarl, as if the danger was quite close at hand and not merely a passing raccoon or fox. As if the dog was standing face to face with a force to be taken seriously.
Hey, lady! I wouldn't go up there if I were you. I know the mountain well. It's a very nasty drop.
Is there another way?
Yeah?
Where?
Back down the way you came from. Back down to Georgetown. Why do you need to get up the mountain? Did it have anything to do with those gunshots?
Help me! Help me,
All right,
please!
here, hide in mine. In there.
Hey, where's this road headed to?
Nowhere. It's a dead end. If you want to pass, you'll have to turn around, go back by way of Georgetown. This place, it's called Dogville.
Dogville?
Yeah.
Well, figures. Stupid name if I ever heard one. Hey, we're looking for somebody.
Oh, really? Who might that be?
The boss wants to talk to you.
Young man,
Yes, sir.
I'm looking for a girl. She may have made her way to your town in her confusion. I don't want any harm to come to her. You see, she's very precious to me.
Well, sir, nobody's been through Dogville. You see, Moses would have barked. He's very suspicious of strangers.
Well, that's very wise of Moses. Please take my card, and if perhaps you see a stranger, then give me a call. I am in a position to offer a considerable reward.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Well, they're gone. Want to come out now?
The beautiful fugitive's name was Grace. She hadn't chosen Dogville from a map or sought out the township for a visit, yet Tom felt right away that she belonged.
Should I take the bone?
She could have kept her vulnerability to herself, but she had elected to give herself up to him at random as, yes, a gift. Generous, very generous, thought Tom.
You gonna eat? You must be hungry if you haven't eaten for days.
I don't deserve that bread. I stole that bone. Never stolen anything before. So now I have to punish myself. I was raised to be arrogant. So I had to teach myself these things.
But Grace, in this town, in these times, it's very impolite not to eat what's set before you. Who are the men in the car? Why would they want to hurt you?
The man in the back of the car, he's the boss. I saw his face.
Give me his telephone number. Told me to call if I saw you.
I'm sure he'd offer you a big reward if you told him where I was.
Where's your family?
Don't have a family. All I had was a father. Those gangsters took him away from me.
What if I said that you could stay here?
It's impossible. It's a very small town. I have to hide. People will ask questions.
Well, that might not matter. Not if they all wanted to help you too.
Are you saying that everybody in this town is like you?
They're good people. You know, they're honest people. They've all been in need themselves. They might well turn you down, but I think it'd be worth the trouble to ask.
But I've got nothing to offer them in return.
No, I think you have plenty to offer Dogville.
To call the mood of the audience at Tom's moral lecture in the mission house the next day enthusiastic would have been going too far. But they had come, and Tom had launched himself fearlessly into his endeavor to illustrate the human problem, to receive. The subject was obvious, but quite dreadfully ill-considered by this young man. To compensate for his lack of preparation, Tom made diligent use of his technique of lashing out somewhat haphazardly in all directions. His father peered around covertly to gauge the mood, and sensing that the assembly was not entirely happy with his rather direct criticism, he decided to forestall any protests.
No, I'm sure that you wish us well, Tom. But of any town, I believe this one has a very fine sense of community. Living side by side, we all know one another. I'm a pretty fair judge of character myself.
But honestly, Tom, you've done it again. Made us come here to listen to a lot of nonsense. What do you think you are, some kind of philosopher?
Observant, that's what I am.
Lazy, I would say. We shovel snow together.
You shovel snow together?
Yeah.
Every household clears their own front walk.
I'm sorry, Tom, you're gonna have to come up with something better than that.
The whole country would be better served with a greater attitude of openness and acceptance.
You're not suggesting that we all wouldn't help out if somebody needed help.
No, that's not the point. That's not the point.
Care for human beings up here.
We'd probably never find out. Since nobody seems to want to admit that there's a problem, let me illustrate. Now, I'm not going to use something that's already happened. I'm going to use something that's just about to happen. Allow me to introduce Grace. Grace, these are the citizens of Dogville.
Hello.
Tom has told us about your predicament, miss.
I really don't want to put any of you in jeopardy.
Why don't you just go to the police? They can take care of gangsters. It's their job.
I don't know that that's such a good idea. In the transportation business...
Ben, these men, they have powerful connections. even with the police.
You think we should give sanctuary to a fugitive? A fugitive that gangsters want to get a hold of? Well, that would put us in a pretty pickle.
Easy, Claire. Thick of your asthma.
Well, Dogville's a good place to hide, that's for certain.
Exactly. The only way up here is Canyon Road. That could easily be watched by Ma Ginger's, nosy cousin who lives only yards from the turnoff. She has a telephone, Martha. You could ring the bell, tell the town if people were coming.
But, Tom, I chime the hours. Well, what if people get confused with all the ringing?
Come now, Martha. Surely we can use our old bell to save a life, if need be.
Why should we?
Because we care, Chuck. We
That ain't
care
what
for
I-
human beings.
That ain't what I mean. How do we know this woman is telling us the truth? Well, maybe these gangsters did shoot at her. That don't make her somebody to be trusted.
He's right. Why would you trust me?
I trust you.
Tom, we're not gangsters. We mind our own business. We don't ask nothing from nobody.
See, at last you admit it.
If only there was some way that we wouldn't doubt the young lady's word, some way to know her. Then I think we'd all ignore the risk.
Well, there is a way. You said it yourself. By living side by side with her. Dad, you're such a fine judge of character. How long would it take a man like you to unmask her? A week? Maybe 2? Surely we can offer her 2 weeks. And if after that time so much as one man cries out, "Be gone," I promise, I'll happily send her packing myself.
Well, if Master Tom think this is right for us and for the community, then that'll do for me. Might be young, but his heart is right, and I've known his heart for as long as it's been beating.
No more words were spoken at the town meeting in the mission house, but it had been decided, they all felt, that the fugitive would be given 2 weeks. And they would all be able to look at themselves in the mirror and know that they had done what they could. Indeed, and perhaps more than most people would have done. So, that very afternoon, Tom took Grace on a stroll down Elm Street to introduce her to the town he loved.
Well, this is where Olivia and June live. June's a cripple. They live here as a token of my dad's broad-mindedness. Chuck and Vera, they have 7 children, and they hate each other. Next door, we have the Hensons. They make a living from grinding the edges off cheap glasses to try and make them look expensive. Moving on, we have Jack McKay. Now, Jack McKay's blind, and the whole town knows it, but he thinks he can hide it by never leaving his house. In the old stable, Ben keeps his truck. He drinks, and he visits the whorehouse once a month, and he's ashamed of it. Martha, she runs the mission house till the new preacher comes, which will just never happen. And that leaves Ma Ginger and Gloria. And they run this really expensive store where they exploit the fact that nobody leaves town. Used to leave go vote, but since they put in the registration fee, it's about a day's wages for these people. And Dogville didn't feel the democratic need anymore. Those awful figurines say more about the people in this town than many words.
If this is the town that you love, then you really have a strange way of showing it. All I see is a beautiful little town in the midst of magnificent mountains. A place where people have hopes and dreams, even under the hardest conditions. And 7 figurines that are not awful at all.
We got 2 weeks to get them to accept you.
You make it sound like we're playing a game.
It is. We are. Isn't saving your life worth a little game?
What do you want me to do?
Do you mind physical labor?
No.
There are 8 households in Dogville. Now that means, roughly, 1 household per hour per day. Dogville offered you 2 weeks. Now you offer them